Welcome back. Well, you might have seen Red Tails. It is a movie about the Tuskegee Airmen, but there's so much more to the story about this group of African-American military pilots who fought in World War II.
Caitlin Francis was able to get a sneak peek of the new exhibit. It's not even completed yet at the New England Air Museum to find out why they're hoping to provide a place to honor their legacy.
The Tuskegee Airmen have an important story to tell, but up until now, it's not a story that's been accessible for many.
There aren't many living Tuskegee Airmen left. And so once they're gone, those stories are gone. And so we're trying to capture them.
And a brand new exhibit at the New England Air Museum is doing just that.
We like to think of it as when you come here and walk through, you'll feel like you're walking in their shoes. You'll see the emotion, you'll hear the stories, the stories of when they came back, pilots that flew, being told by the airline industry, we don't hire Negroes. And yet, they still persevere.
But before you can walk through the exhibit, the Tuskegee Airmen, Their Untold Stories, the Air Museum is continuing to fundraise to complete it.
Saturday evening, we have retired U.S. General Fig Newton here, four-star general, who was a former Pratt executive, who would never have been an Air Force general if it wasn't for the Tuskegee Airmen. We have George Hardy coming back, Tuskegee pilot. And we have two children that will be on our panel. George Smith, Gordon Smith, whose father, Luther Smith, was a pilot during the war, got shot down. And some of the things he went through as a POW are incredible. And then Ann Palmer will be able to talk about her father in the war.
The exhibit is set to open in early June, and there's a bit more to do.
So for this exhibit, like many of our other exhibits, we're trying to give visitors a multi-sensory experience. So everybody responds to different things when they see an exhibit. Some people love the imagery, some people read every line of text, some people like the artifacts, some people like video, and you're going to see all that in this exhibit.
The centerpiece, aside from the video interviews, is the aircraft.
When the Tuskegee Airmen went to Tuskegee Army Airfield, they kind of had three different phases of flight training. The first phase
This Stearman PT-17 was actually flown at Tuskegee in Alabama and used to train the airmen.
And alongside that, we have things like flight equipment, personal effects, photographs, letters that will be on display for people to see. And that's all alongside, the text, the imagery, and of course the video.
And yesterday I fulfilled one of my ambitions as a combat pilot. I got one airplane.
If I was not doing this interview, you wouldn't know the greatness that was in my father.
My dad wanted to be an airplane pilot more than anything in the whole wide world. He wanted to fly.
Hearing firsthand accounts from airmen who are still alive or their relatives is how the exhibit got its name.
You've read so much about their story and what they did, especially somebody like Harry Stewart, who, shot down 3 planes in one day. I mean, I know enough about history and aviation history to know that being a fighter pilot during World War II sounds absolutely terrifying. So to do that in the face of all the challenges that they had, and then to be so successful, to meet somebody that, and oh, by the way, is still alive at, 97, 98 years old, that's pretty awesome. And when we don't have that, because the airmen have passed on, we've got their children, and that's just as impactful.
Officials with the New England Air Museum say this is the perfect place for this exhibit because the museum is the largest in the region. Also because other Tuskegee exhibits are mainly located down south or in Detroit. It's been a long time in the making.
There were a couple of reasons behind this exhibit, right? Why the Tuskegee Airmen, why the New England Air Museum? One of them was very personal. So one of our board members who passed away some time ago was Lem Custis. Lem Custis was actually one of the first 5 Tuskegee Airmen to graduate flight training during the war. He was also the first black police officer in Hartford, Connecticut, and he was a member of our board of directors. So there was a very personal connection between the museum and this story that we wanted to fulfill.
With all the things going on across the country, we're telling the story of these brave men, the sacrifices they made, the obstacles they had to overcome just to participate in the war. They didn't want to stand on the sidelines. They wanted to help the country. And the things they had to go through, we talk about. And when they came back from the war, nothing had changed. Even though they had been wildly successful, they still had the racism that they had to overcome. But the things that they did during the war, helped change society. And so that's the story we want to tell and protect. It's the story that we want to preserve for generations to come.
And in a few short months, people will be able to experience their untold story right at the New England Air Museum.
They created a legacy that we need to make sure stands and is available.
Incredible. Tickets for tomorrow's fundraiser at the Air Museum are available online at www.neam.org.
And a great thing to take the family to. The exhibit officially opens to the public the first weekend of June.
Cool.